All right, welcome everyone. We're so glad you're here. We're excited to bring you another Blue Circle Health cooking class, and Rita's got some delightful recipes to bring us through today. So, why don't we start off with doing some quick introductions, and then we'll do some housekeeping, and then we'll get right into it. So, Rita, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name's Rita Rubin. I'm a dietitian and diabetes educator here at Blue Circle Health. And I have worked with and supported people with T1D for about 28, 29 years in lots of different settings. And during that time, I have taught a bunch of cooking classes. It's really something I love to do. So I'm so grateful that we can do it here and so glad that you're all here. So thank you for joining us.
Great. Thank you, Rita. And my name is Scott Johnson. I'm a senior manager of community here at Blue Circle Health. I've lived with type 1 diabetes for 45 years and just really enjoy being able to host Rita and bring her expertise and skill set to the forefront here. So thanks for the honor and privilege of letting me host today. In terms of an agenda, we've got some simple stovetop meals for summer that Rita will guide us through. We're preparing Austin style migas and then two options of PF Chang style lettuce wraps, one with chicken and then a vegetarian option made with tofu. I'll send all of those recipes in the chat in just a moment. And then I'll also send out an email along with the recipes and a recording of today's session as well. Before we get going too far, I do need to cover some quick housekeeping items. We build these classes and webinars specifically for people living with type 1 diabetes, but we recognize that there may be caregivers and healthcare professionals joining too. And we welcome you and we're glad that you're here with us. During the event today, we welcome and encourage you to use the chat feature along the way. I'll keep an eye on it throughout the session if you need anything or if you have any questions along the way. The session is being recorded, and participation in this event is completely voluntary and may reveal your identity and any identifying information that you share with other group participants. For example, comments in the chat or during discussions. We are not providing medical advice, individual or otherwise, and may need to refer you back to your healthcare team for detailed and individualized answers. And then finally, for anyone who is not familiar with Blue Circle Health, stick around until the end and I'll share a brief overview and answer any questions that you may have. All right, I know that was a lot. Thanks for your patience with me. Let's go ahead and get started. I will switch over to Rita's cameras, and Rita, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Scott. And yeah, thanks again for joining us today, everybody. We'll start right in with the lettuce wraps tonight. And the tofu, we're going to make tofu lettuce wraps. And the chicken one is the same basic recipe, except for you just substitute ground chicken. So tonight, I'm actually going to demonstrate the tofu one, but you will have both recipes, one with tofu, one with chicken. And this version of lettuce wraps is very similar to the ones that you get at PF Chang's. It's the taste, the flavor is all the ingredients are very similar with one difference. And that is this recipe has a lot less sugar. And that's because we're going to make our own hoisin sauce, which is a prime part of lettuce wraps and a very important part for the flavor and everything. But it's a really a very sweet sauce. So but you can make your own at home with a lot less sugar. So it has a little bit less of a hit on your blood glucose. And I think the commercial bottled hoisin sauce, it has about 17 grams of added sugar per 2 tablespoons. And you don't use a lot of it in a recipe, but that's it's a pretty good amount of added sugar. But this recipe only have 5 grams of added sugar per tablespoon, but we have all the flavor and the yumminess. So let's get started with the sauce because it has maybe some unusual ingredients, but they're ingredients that you can find easily just about anywhere. And so we're going to start off with, first of all, chopping some garlic, and you can use as much or as little garlic as you like. I like to use like a good size fat clove, and I'm just going to mince my garlic here. But you can use a garlic press if you find that's easier, or if you have jarred garlic, that's what you use. That works as well. It's about equal to about a tablespoon of chopped garlic. And I'm just going to mince mine a bunch because the smaller the pieces, the more garlic flavor you get. And with a sauce, you don't necessarily want a big chunk of garlic that you're chewing on. And so the smaller, the better. Just helps to improve the flavor. And there's a trick I'll show you here. You can make a little bit of garlic paste. I'll make sure you can see my board here. So I chopped up my garlic, and I'm just going to put just a little bit of salt on there. And I'm going to use the side of my knife to smash the garlic and turn it almost into like a paste. So you can do the same thing with a garlic press if you have one. If you don't have one, this works too. And it's kind of fun. Let's smush out all that garlic. I'm wondering if any of you have made your own hoisin sauce. Have you explored any alternative recipes for it? Curious what you've tried out there. Or if you use hoisin sauce, what do you use it for? What kind of recipes? So I'm going to put my garlic in a saucepan here. And then we're going to add the other ingredients. So we got about half a cup. This makes a good amount of sauce. You might not use all of it in this recipe, but it stays in the fridge for a real long time. So I've got some tamari. This is gluten-free soy sauce, which is called tamari. This is a lower sodium version. So we're about a half a cup of that goes in the pan. I've got some vinegar. You can use really any kind of vinegar: rice vinegar, white wine vinegar. This is rice vinegar, unseasoned. So you can get rice vinegar that has salt and sugar added to it that you used to make sushi. But this is the unseasoned kind, so there's nothing added to it. I have some Chinese 5-spice powder. This is another question for you guys. If you have ever cooked with it and what you've used it for. It's not something I cook a lot with, but it's a delicious spice blend. So you can just buy it in the store already blended up. Or you can find recipes online, and it's usually has star anise, cloves, cinnamon, fennel seed, and usually like Szechuan peppercorns, which are they have a different spice than regular black pepper. And it's just all ground up. So Chinese 5-spice powder, that's what gives hoisin sauce that kind of special barbecue-y like flavor. And some toasted sesame oil. So not regular sesame oil, but toasted, which means it's got a richer flavor, a lot of that umami flavor that you find in Asian cooking a lot of the time, that delicious umami-ness. I also have some black pepper and some crushed red pepper. And I've got some sugar. So you can play with this recipe and use a different kind of sweetener if you'd like. It changes the flavor a little bit, but you can see if you use a different sweetener, a non-nutritive sweetener, or monk fruit, or whatever that you like as a sweetener, you could play with that instead of regular sugar. But play with it, judiciously, a little bit at a time to see, how much it needs, because those things are so much sweeter than regular sugar. But this is just regular old sugar. And then the next one, the final ingredient, is miso. And again, if anybody out there has used any of these ingredients, tell me in the chat. Send us a message. This is white miso paste. So miso is a combination of soybeans that are fermented with usually a grain. So white miso is fermented with rice, and it's got kind of a sweet, salty flavor to it. And you may have tried it if you've ever been in a restaurant and had miso soup. It's often the miso that's used in miso soup. It's also, you can see it with recipes in certain like dressings or sauces. It has kind of a light, really light flavor, salty sweet, delicious. And the container is usually like something like this. So this is the brand that I have in my local store. And so this is white miso, and the ingredients are whole soybeans, rice, sea salt, water. That's it. So it is gluten free, and but not all misos are. So some are made with barley, which has gluten in it. So just make sure you look at the label and see if yours is gluten free. If you're gluten free. And so I'm just going to give my sauce a little stir here. And I'm going to add the miso. And the miso is an amazing ingredient in that it's a really, really good probiotic. So you hear a lot about these days about the importance of probiotics for your gut health, which affects the health of your whole body. And because it's a fermented food, it has a lot of beneficial bacteria. So, and the trick with miso is you want to keep those little bacteria alive. So you don't want to boil it. If you ever make like miso soup or a sauce with miso, you want to bring it to a simmer, but don't boil it, because it will actually kill off all the good stuff. So I'm just whisking this up, and it's plenty warm. Let's stick it back on the stove here just another couple minutes. And that's it. And then we're going to take it off the heat, and then add some cornstarch to just help it thicken up a little bit. And that's it. That's all there is. It's really, really delicious. I've had a lot of this lately. Working up the recipe, I've been using it on all sorts of things. I actually really like it on tofu. It's great. To marinate it with the tofu in it, and to grill it. You can use it. My family has been using a lot of it to grill like chicken and stuff, and basting it with the sauce.
Nice. We've got a lot of people that are excited about, trying this. Never used hoisin sauce. Maybe made their own stir fried sauces, but not used hoisin. So it's great, and a lot of just excitement about learning some new healthy eating options.
That's great. Yeah. So hoisin sauce is often a very common ingredient in stir fry. Yep. So I've been doing a lot of stir fry. So my cornstarch is all just sprayed on me. My cornstarch, I've just added a little bit of water to it just to make a little slurry. And you can see that. And then we're going to add it to our sauce and thicken it up. And then just set it aside, let it cool. And that's it. Can you guys see that? I wish you could smell it. It's like, oh my gosh, it smells like spicy, rich. It smells just like barbecue sauce. That kind of really pungent kind of smell that you get with that. So that's our sauce. I'm going to set this back here and let it cool. I have my other pan. Now we'll make the filling for the wraps. Let me just turn you can see that okay. All right. So for the filling, and again, this filling is the same if you're using the tofu or the chicken, and everything else is the same. Just cook it a little bit different. With the chicken, you just use ground chicken, and you brown it up and you break up the chunks, just like you do in ground hamburger. So we've got mushrooms in our filling. We got onions, like a regular onion, and I've also have some green onions. So there's a couple different layers of flavor with the different kinds of onions. We have ginger, more garlic, also water chestnuts, and tofu. I think that's it. So we'll just start by chopping up some stuff, and I'm going to heat up my pan over here. All right. So the PF Chang lettuce wraps, I looked up the nutrition information, and the vegetarian ones, the vegetable ones, have 3 grams of carbs. And the ones, this recipe, you've got about 22, I think. So a little bit less, but a lot less added sugar. So I think the PF Chang ones have, gosh, I can't remember what it was, like 16 grams of added sugar, and these only have 5. But they're equally delicious. So I'm just chopping up some onions. I'm going to chop up some mushrooms here. You can use any kind of mushroom. These are just basic white button mushrooms. And if you don't like mushrooms, leave them out. Optional ingredient. You can just do the tofu. You could throw other vegetables in here, like carrots. Grated carrots is really good. Are really good. Or even chop up some greens and saute those up with the onions and the ginger and put that in with the tofu. So it's a very versatile recipe here. So you can make it your own. And I'm not being careful about what these look like when I'm chopping up the mushrooms. I'm just making them into little pieces, moderately little pieces, because, they shrink down when they cook. And I've got some olive oil in my pan, and I'm just going to put them down. There you go. So turn up my heat a little bit. And then just onion. This is a lovely onion. I have a neighbor who has a garden and was sharing vegetables with me. So this is a local little spring, early summer onion. A little milder flavor than some. And there's not quite as much bite to it. So I'm not frying this time. I don't remember which class it was where I had a very potent onion. And the tears were flowing. I think we were talking about what you could do to stop the tears or prevent the tears. You remember that, Scott?
I do. Yeah, that was fun for me, more fun for me to watch than for you to cry your way through. But yeah, absolutely.
So there's my onions in the pan. And yeah, we talked about that the stronger the onions are, actually, the more nutritious they are, right? They have this very important phytochemical that's anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. So that gives that bite, and it burns your eyes. So I'm going to chop up this garlic. Another powerfully nutritional and medicinal food, right? Also anti-inflammatory. Just improve your immune system. Put that in the pan. And then the ginger. So I love cooking with fresh ginger. This is a little piece of a root, but often when you're in the store, they're really big. And you don't have to usually buy the whole thing. You can just break off a piece, and you don't have to buy the whole thing. And a couple of things you can do with ginger. I find that if I store it, if I'm going to use it pretty frequently, or if I just have a smaller piece, I'm going to leave it on the counter. It seems to last longer for me that way. You can also store it in the fridge, but it is definitely one of those foods that becomes a science experiment in the vegetable drawer, at least in my house. The other thing you can do is freeze it. And one thing, you can just freeze the whole thing, which makes it a little harder to use when you're ready to use it. Or you can braid it and put it in a Tupperware or in a Ziploc bag and freeze that. And then you can just scoop out, what you'd like to use, but it freezes super, super well. And we're going to grate this ginger. So I'm just going to cut off a piece that I want to use. And there's a couple ways to peel it. you can either use your knife and just slice it off, or you can use a spoon. And if you use the spoon, I'm just scraping, I'm just using the spoon to scrape the skin. So the skin is quite thin. And so if you want to spare more of the ginger, if you scrape it with a spoon, then it will keep more of the ginger, and you won't slice so much of it off. And but if you want to do it quicker, just use a vegetable peeler or a knife. And but you do want to peel it, because if you use the skin, it's really fibery and not really fun to eat. So the ginger I'm going to grate. And what do you guys like to use ginger in? Is there anything like you like to make with ginger or eat with ginger if you're out to eat, or drink with ginger in it? It's such a versatile spice. You can put it in sweet dishes, savory dishes, right?
Got some comments coming in about stir fry.
Yes.
Stir fry. Another question from the chat while you're working on that is about if you recommend any specific type of mushrooms for this recipe.
Yeah.
She likes portobello and shiitake mushrooms.
Yeah, sure. Those are all good. Yeah, any kind that you like. They're all good. The portobellos and the shiitakes are going to add a richer flavor than the regular old white button mushrooms. But they're all work perfectly fine. Yeah, play with it, right? So I'm going to put this into the mix. There's my ginger. Yeah, give you a little stir. And then add, let's see, what else do we need? I'm going to wait to add my tofu but I am going to put the water chestnuts in here. And so water chestnuts are really interesting. Pretty common in stir fry, right? In Asian dishes. And they're really high in fiber. I actually just discovered that recently, that a cup of water chestnuts has about 8 grams of fiber. That's really a lot in a vegetable type thing. So that's kind of cool. And I think they just add this really nice crunch to things and nice sweet flavor. And they're just the bulb of I think it's a potted grass that's native to parts of Asia, and easy to find if you're in the Asian food section in the grocery store. They're going to be right there. So I'm going to give my stuff stirred here, and boy, it smells good in here. So good. Let's see, it's all cooking up there. And what I'm doing is just going to cook it until the onions start to tenderize a little bit and the mushrooms start to brown a little bit. And then we'll add our tofu, and we'll throw in our water chestnuts after that. So how many of you cook with tofu? Or how many of you are unfamiliar with cooking with tofu? Curious.
I've tried some tofu, but it hasn't gone very well for me. And I think it's tofu is one of those things that it sounds like it should be easy to make, but it can be a little deceptive. One of the things that I like about it, the idea about it is that it absorbs whatever I'm cooking, like the taste of it. I feel like it's something I can season up well. At least that's the idea behind it. But the practice, I need a little more practice behind it.
I totally agree. Yeah, you think that it's a little tricky sometimes. Yeah, it is sort of it's bland, right? It doesn't have a whole lot of flavor by itself. It's so it really depends on how you're cooking it and what you're adding to it. And so yeah, there are a few tricks. So I'm
We've got folks in the chat saying that they love cooking with it, but it's can be difficult sometimes. I like tofu, but need more options to cook and enjoy it. Cook with tofu and have had to learn a lot through trial and error. So I think we've got a very captive audience for the tips and tricks here, Rita.
I'm excited about that. All right, I'll share you all my favorites. So generally, the tofu I buy is an extra firm variety. That just means that it's dense and or denser than firm. I think extra firm just is easier to work with if you're doing something like this with lettuce wraps or a stir fry or something like that. It's just going to hold its shape better. And it comes in a package with some water, usually, well, always. And so you want to take it out of the water. And then if you're putting it in something where you want to brown the tofu, what's really important is you want to press it or in some way remove some of the moisture from it because it contains so much moisture. If you want it to brown, it will never brown it if you don't press some of that water out of it. And you'll see different recommendations. There are even tofu presses that you can buy if you want to really get into it and just rock the tofu. But what I do is this. So I have a plate and a towel. And then I just slice the tofu, usually up like that, just to help the towel absorb more of the water. And I'll just press it, but I'll put another plate on top of it or something a little bit heavy just to press. That's it. That's all I do. And you'll see recommendations to do this for hours. I don't think you have to do it for hours. You might start the tofu first if you're making a dish with the tofu and then prepare all your other ingredients and then come back to the tofu. So it should be fine. Especially if you slice it like that. So that's one trick is if you're browning it, dry it out. The more you dry it out, the better. The other trick is if you're sauteing it and you want the tofu to hold its shape, like in a stir fry, get your pan really hot or use a nonstick pan. So, because tofu wants to stick to the pan. I don't know if you guys have experienced that. It's very frustrating. So either use a nonstick or if you're using like a stainless steel pan like this, get it really hot. You can, maybe not scorching, but get it hot enough, put your oil in. The oil should sort of like have a sheen. It should sort of like be really slippery on the pan. And that means that the stainless steel has become kind of nonstick. Another trick that you can do with a stainless steel pan to make sure it's nice and hot or hot enough, but not too hot, is you take like a spoonful of water and you put it in the pan. And if it forms like little mercury balls of water and moves around the pan, it's like the perfect temperature. It means that the stainless steel has actually essentially become nonstick. It's kind of fun to do, but really hard to get it just right. So a good idea is just use a nonstick pan if you've got one. It's the easiest way to cook tofu. So
Rita, can you talk a little bit more about the tofu press? We have a question in the chat about how useful is it really? You seem to do okay with your towel. Like, talk a little bit more about at what point might somebody be interested in that tofu press?
I've used it a couple times and I haven't found that I could really need it. But the times that I did use it, I did notice it does brown better and stick a little bit less. So, yeah, that's the difference I've seen. So, but I didn't notice a big difference for myself. And it was one more thing that was just sitting on the shelf in my kitchen. I didn't really use it. So yeah, so some benefit, but maybe not a whole lot in my experience. Good question. So I'm just crumbling my tofu into the pan here. And it's going to brown up pretty quickly because it's pretty dry. And then with tofu, another trick is to just make sure you've got a lot of flavorful ingredients with it. So it's a sauce that you need, or like this, we've got garlic and onion and ginger in the pan. We've got a lot of flavor, so that tofu is gonna absorb that flavor and mash. And that they'll match whatever flavor you have, and it's let's see what else about tofu. Other tricks. Marinating it can be really good too. You can add a lot of flavor to it in a marinade. You'll notice when you marinate it, the marinade only sinks in a little bit, doesn't go in really, really deep. So you could try marinating like smaller pieces if you really want it to absorb more flavor, but also dry it first before you put it in the marinade, and then it's just going to absorb more of that flavor. Let's see what else. All my tofu tips have gone out of my brain. What else? Tofu is interesting. You can actually freeze it, and if you freeze it, you just store like the whole box and container in the freezer, and then you thaw it, and then you squeeze out the water, and it gets a totally different texture. It's more like almost like ground meat. And that's kind of handy if you're making it as a filling for something like stuffed peppers, or something where you want to mimic chili. That's a trick that I'll use with chili, is with the tofu, is freeze it, thaw it, squeeze out the water, and it becomes just totally different texture, and may fool the people you're feeding it to. Possibly not. And the texture is very similar to ground meat when you do that. There's also silken tofu or soft tofu, and those are really great. The silken tofu especially is really good in smoothies or sauces. Yeah, so if you want to bump up the protein in your smoothie in the morning, you could throw some silken tofu in there. Tofu is quite high in protein. There's about 20 grams in a cup, I think. 20 grams of protein in a cup, and it's a complete protein. That means it's got all the necessary amino acids that we need. And it's also very high in calcium, because it's made, when they make tofu, they cook the soybeans, and then they mash the soybeans, and they drain the liquid from the soybeans, and then they put a formulin in there, just like you're making cheese. That's calcium based, and so the calcium is quite high in tofu too. So very good source of calcium, especially if you're following a plant-based diet and you're not getting any calcium. Dairy can be a really good source. So I threw in my water chestnuts, and now I'm going to chop up some green onions and check the recipe, make sure I didn't miss anything. Fine. Well, that's it. That's all it's been filling. So yeah, be creative. Change it up. Add stuff to it. Make it your own. So the green onion, I love green onion. I think it's just got this lovely flavor, and also very nutritious. And you can find green onions or scallions. I think we did a poll last time, whether you called it a green onion or a scallion. We cover some very important topics in these classes. Good things to know. Throw that in there. And I'm just going to let this cook up just a little bit more, and then we're just going to add sauce, and that's it. What do you guys think? Any thoughts, questions on there? So just pretend this was chicken. There'd be ground chicken in here instead.
And so if you were using chicken in the recipe, ground chicken, you would just crumble it in, similar to how you did the tofu, right?
Nope, and just break it up with your spatula or something. Just like you do, with ground beef if you're making a goulash or chili or something. Yeah, that's it. Then grab my sauce. And
Got some comments in the chat that it looks fantastic.
good. Yeah, try it. It's so easy. And the sauce, you got a few ingredients to collect. And if you just want to use regular oyster sauce, that's fine too. But it's pretty easy to make the sauce, and it's gonna last for a while in the fridge. So it's so delicious. And so I'm just going to take this off the heat, and we'll add our sauce. And you don't necessarily, you're not going to put the whole pot of sauce in there. I can't really need it, but I'm just going to add enough so that it has some flavor. You can just play with it to add as much as you want. And that's it. So super easy. You may go to PF Chang and say, "Oh man, my homemade stuff is way better than this." It's gonna get us. So then wrap it up if you like. I often just serve it with lettuce to scoop up with. So I know where you like it. But usually you use bib lettuce or butter lettuce because they separate into these really nice leaves for wrapping up your filling. Oh, another thing about this filling is it makes great leftovers. So it will last in the fridge. And just like a lot of foods, the flavor just gets more complex and improves with time. So that's it. Got your tofu lettuce wraps. I'm gonna set these aside.
That looks great. We've got some questions in the chat asking if you deliver. Do you deliver to the people watching?
I wish I could. Wow. I mean, virtual meetings are so amazing, but it's kind of a bummer. There's nobody here to eat this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Problem. You'll have to solve that problem, won't you, Rita?
Yeah, I'll have to figure it out. Yeah. Have to get a port key or something. I don't know. Figure it out.
Yeah, that looks great. I also love the, with many of these recipes where, maybe I'm not a big mushroom guy, but like you said, you can just modify it to suit your tastes or your, include things that maybe wouldn't be typically in there that you like, or get rid of things that are typically in there, but that you're not so fond of.
Right. Just change it up. Yep, absolutely. I didn't talk about the other kind of miso. So you may see in the store, you'll see white miso, you might see yellow, and you might see red. So as the color increases, the flavor kind of deepens. It gets more pungent, richer. So the yellow has barley in it, barley and rice, and it's got like a less sweet, more powerful flavor. And that's often used for soup as well, but also good for sauces and glazes and things. And then the red miso is the really pungent miso. And it's fermented for a longer period of time, and it's made with a lot of barley. So it's this rich, earthy, you don't need much. And so it's really good for like maybe some soups or glazes or something like that. But miso, use it like a little bit at a time and see how much you need it, because it's really, really flavorful. All right, so now on to the migas. Has anybody had migas? I'm curious. If you're from a certain part of the Southwest, Texas, you probably had migas. So, I'm not sure where they originated. Maybe one of you knows. How. It's basically eggs with vegetables. and spices. And but what's kind of fun is we also have corn chips that are mixed in and some cheese. So it sounds weird, but it's really good. It's a great combo. So yeah, so it's easy. So I've got garlic, onion, aroma tomato. I use Roma in this because it doesn't have as much moisture as like a beef steak tomato has a lot of moisture in it and it doesn't cook well. So or you could use cherry tomatoes. I've done that. So I've got aroma, I've got a jalapeno chili, I've got some chips. I really love blue corn chips. They're actually more nutritious than yellow corn. So if you like them, then you can find them. That beautiful blue purple color is a really important nutrient, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. It also can help, I think, with reducing insulin resistance. But like all those things that are purple and deep blue are super nutritious. So with corn chips, I like to get the blue form. And we bought some cilantro and salt and pepper and eggs. That's it. So really easy. So I'm going to chop up some veggies and then scramble some eggs, and that's going to be my dinner. What else do you guys make? So I'm going to chop up these veggies. Tell me what you guys like to make in the summertime. I don't know what it is where you are. So right now outside, I think it's like 90% humidity and 88 degrees. So it's just sticky hot out there today in upstate New York. And so I don't want to spend a long time on Stovetop on a daily life. So what do you guys do? I'm curious. What some summer meals might be. And you notice that you start craving foods that are just kind of lighter to the summer? Yeah. So it's kind of like eating seasonally. So I find myself loving salads in the summer. Any kind of salad, lots of greens, veggies, tomatoes, bell peppers, all the stuff that's going to be ripe. Find that I love them, but I don't love them so much in the winter. They just don't appeal so much, So find that I eat a little bit more. I eat more fruit in the summertime. More berries in the beginning, melons, watermelons are out there now, peaches, sort of thing. Not using my oven at all.
We've got a couple of comments. Lots of grilling in the summer, and they do a lot of seafood because they're right on the coast. And then in the winter, she likes to make a lot of soups from scratch, which sounds really nice and cozy, doesn't it?
It does. I don't want a soup today.
Yeah,
But in the winter, that's
in
awesome.
the winter. Mm-hmm.
I agree totally. Yep. I think we kind of naturally, you kind of eat with the seasons a little bit, just crave different foods. All right. I'm going to fire up my stove and put a little olive oil in the pan. And I use a nonstick pan for this. And I don't have much luck cooking eggs and anything else. I do have a stainless steel skillet, and I will, if I heat it up just right and do that thing with the ball of water, and I get the temperature just right, my eggs don't stick. But otherwise, I use stainless, like a nonstick. Does anybody do something different with eggs? Any luck out there cooking it differently? It's just so annoying when things stick to the pan.
I'm with you on that one. I haven't found a better way. Yeah.
Nonstick is lovely. Yeah.
We've got a couple of votes in the chat for Pam cooking spray. Just a little happy, but yeah.
Yeah, that's super great. Yep. Little cooking spray. Yep. Totally. And so migas, I did have them when I was in Austin, Texas, a very long time ago. But that's when I was first introduced to them. We went out to breakfast, and oh my gosh, they were so good. And but I find that you can eat this. You can eat this for dinner. I mean, it's a great dinner and lunch, whatever, anytime. So super good. So cooking that, taking it, heating up. So chop up my tomato and just in little pieces because think about bite-sized pieces for this. With amigos, you can serve them with tortillas. You can serve them with a wedge of lime and some salsa. All the fixins, the little black beans on the side, avocado. You can dress it up a lot, right? I guess it's sort of a take on ranchos, huevos rancheros, right? But it's kind of something.
That's definitely what comes to mind for me when I think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We're actually putting the chips in with the eggs. So, lots of bright flavors and colors. This is going to be a hot jalapeno, so I'm actually going to use less of it because I don't do a lot of spice very well. I can just tell it's going to be hot. I can smell it. So I'm going to wimp out and just use a little bit of this jalapeno. But any kind of chilies that you like will go really well in. And some cilantro. I use the cilantro stems because they're super flavorful. And if I'm just going to chop them up really finely, that's great. Or you can take the leaves off and just use the leaves. I just like to chop them finely and use the whole herb. Cilantro stems also. If you're making something like that you want, like you want to infuse like that cilantro flavor, like a soup or something like that, maybe like chicken tortilla soup or something. Put your cilantro stems into the soup, and you can tie them up in a little bundle. I use kitchen twine, or just throw them in there whole and then fish them out before you eat them. But it infuses just this lovely flavor from the stems. So yeah, if you're doing any kind of a Southwestern kind of style or Asian style where you want a little more of that cilantro flavor, it's a great way to do it. So I didn't want to put those in with my egg yet. And so got our onions cooking with a little bit of salt and some pepper. And if you add, think about cooking, you're adding layers of flavor to stuff. So I always like to, put a little salt in the beginning. The salt also helps to break down the onions and you bring out the flavor. And I find that, if you add things like salt, like early on in the cooking process, a little bit here in the beginning, maybe a little bit in the middle, and maybe a little bit in the end, overall, the flavor is going to be more balanced and you probably will use less salt overall than if you didn't put it in and you just put it in at the end. You tend to use more salt now. So if you're cutting back on sodium, think about a little bit like a pinch. And then you generally use less overall. Put in like tomatoes and jalapeno. If anybody worked on like changing like meals and foods and stuff with a goal of having less sodium or less sugar. And if you have, I'm curious if you have any strategies that have been helpful to you. One thing to keep in mind with salt and sugar is that we kind of develop a taste for it that can be. You can develop a taste that where you want things sweeter and sweeter or saltier and saltier. But the good news is you can reverse that, so that your taste buds actually start to adjust to things that are less sweet or less salty. And you can do it gradually by just saying, hey, I think I'm going to put a little bit less salt on my eggs this morning, or a little less, I don't know, sugar in my coffee, or have a smaller portion of dessert or something like that. But eventually the taste buds just get used to things that are less sweet or less salty. And you'll find like you don't really want things that sweet or salty. Or you can go like crazy cold turkey and just like cut it out, which I don't recommend.
We had some good comments about family members getting used to putting more and more salt or sweets in and trying to cut back. And another comment about enjoying making their own sauces and seasoning blends because it gives a little more control over how much is added there.
Sure, does. Yep, absolutely. And then thinking about other flavors that you want to put in your food, balancing things like salt, sweet, spicy, what are the bitter, salt, sweet, spice, umami, this kind of balancing flavors. Oh, or tangy, and if you have kind of a balance of flavors in your food, you generally don't need so much overpowering, salt. So just threw in my lovely eggs, and I'm going to crumble in some blue corn chips. And isn't that pretty? I don't want them to be too big because then you can't really, it's not great to eat. So crumble them kind of small. And handle up those eggs. And then top it with some cheese and cilantro. That's it.
That's really beautiful and colorful.
Isn't that pretty?
Yeah.
So super easy meal, right? You're just dressing up scrambled eggs, right? And I don't know. It's one of my favorite meals for dinner. Often I'll do scrambled eggs or just saute up some greens and garlic and have that on the side, and it's delicious.
Yeah, it looks very colorful and filling and just kind of a cozy and easy meal.
Yep. I'm throwing in some cheese. You can leave the cheese out. And just stirring in the cheese until it melts. And put some on a plate with some cilantro, and then you're done.
We've got a great question in the chat asking if the chips hold on to some of their texture or do they kind of soften right in? What's your experience?
But they've got a little crunch. Yeah. So yeah, I'll keep it. Yeah. So I have like a little crunch still.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's kind of like al dente corn chips. And then some cilantro, and that's it. Isn't that pretty?
Yeah, that looks great.
Yeah. So yeah, this is actually dinner for me, I think. Eat some migas.
Yeah, I can see how it would fit to kind of any meal of the day. It looks like it'd be a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, super good. So yeah, any other thoughts or questions?
We've got some fans saying these look like 2 recipes that I can follow. Thanks for showing us how easy it can be. I agree, Rita. Very, very well done.
Good. I'm glad. I mean, that's really the goal, is to Just cook something. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
complicated.
I often make the mistake of overcomplicating things when I'm thinking about, cooking or I get a little intimidated by the idea of it, but I love, mm, like watching you go through stuff and knowing when I can substitute something out, or if I don't like mushrooms, don't include mushrooms or whatever, make it much more approachable.
Good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. That's definitely my goal. Make cooking more friendly.
Yeah, well, I would say mission definitely accomplished here.
Oh, good. I'm
Um,
so glad.
why don't I get the poll up on the screen? We are going to vote on our next month's recipes. So we have got a couple of options. The first option is a couple of delightful summer salads. So potatoes, green beans, and olive salad, and a summer couscous salad. Another option, which I actually saw a comment about this earlier in the chat, but a couple of alternatives to beef burgers. Easy salmon burger with lemony sauce, or a best veggie burger with mushrooms, walnut, and brown rice. So you guys should all see the poll up on your screen there. We'll let some of the votes tally in. Again, option one is a summer salads, potatoes with green beans and black olives, and a couscous or orzo summer salad. And option number two is a couple of delicious alternatives to beef burgers. Easy salmon burger with lemony sauce, and the best veggie burger with mushrooms, walnuts, and brown rice. And you know what? We are split 50-50, right down the middle, with some comment coming in saying, boy, this was a really hard choice. So sounds like we've got a couple of winners here.
All right. That's good. Well, we need a tiebreaker.
Yep, we need a tiebreaker for sure. So we'll see if we'll send this out in the email as well. But yeah, that's interesting. Right now, split right down the middle, 50-50. So tough choice.
Well, that's good. That's good. There was a good
Good couple of good choices.
throw in
Yeah,
there.
for sure.
Yeah. Great. Great.
Oh, we're edging it out. The summer salads are edging out by one vote.
All right.
There we go. Great.
Okay.
Well, unless we get some additional votes in, we're going to lean towards the summer salads for next time. But I can tell that the alternative to the beef burgers might need to come back for another round and another round of votes there.
We'll do it.
Great. Well, I'm going to end the poll there. Yes, everyone, thank you again for attending, sharing your time with us today. Learning more about nutrition and food. It's such an important part of living well with diabetes. You guys should all be really proud of yourselves for being here. We certainly are. And then stay tuned for future events like this. Coming up on Thursday, July 10th, we've got our next Spanish group session. And then on Tuesday, July 15th, Carrie will host a community partner webinar with our friends at the Diabetes Link, where she's talking about transitioning to adulthood with type 1 diabetes as we start to think about and going back after summer break, getting started in school, and some good topics there. Then on Thursday, July 31st, Sherry will be with us to talk about insulin pumps and CGM basics. And then I can't believe we're into August already. With that, our next cooking class will be Monday, August 4th, and then followed by our English group sessions on that Thursday and Friday, August 7th and 8th. So just please keep an eye on your email and text messages for more information on all of those. And I'm also excited to remind you that we have added an events list on our website, so you can see dates and times and register for any of the upcoming events that you'd like to attend. And then finally, please do share your feedback. So depending on how you joined, you might see a survey pop up once you close out of here. I'll also include a link to the survey in the follow-up email. We'd just love to know if this was helpful, what other recipes or topics you'd like us to cover. Also, how is the time work? Do you like coming for a whole hour? Do you want us to do something smaller, maybe one recipe that's a half hour or something like that? Um, just let us know what works best for you, and we'll do our best to accommodate there. Um, it sounds like we've got a couple of people be on vacation. So enjoy. We hope to see you when you come back next time. We'll be here. And we'll also get a recording out for you too and get that added to the website as well. Um, excuse me. For anyone here today who may not already be familiar with Blue Circle Health, stick around. I'll share a quick 5-minute overview and stick around to answer questions. We'll go ahead and let Rita drop off. Rita, thank you as always for another great session. And of course, any of you that are joined that are familiar with us, you can also drop off anytime you like as well.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming to our class. Good to have.
See you next time. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
All right. So here, do a quick intro on Blue Circle Health. If you have questions along the way, go ahead and add them into the chat and I'll address those once we get done. But Blue Circle Health offers free clinical care, education, and support for adults with type 1 diabetes. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization funded by the Helmsley Charitable Trust. They're an organization dedicated to improving the lives of people with type 1 diabetes. We are a virtual program for adults living with type 1 diabetes, offering free care, education, and support to those who need an extra hand, and we act as an extension of the care that you already receive. You do stay connected to your medical home. We're just here to help close the gap. So, what exactly does that mean? Our program is up to 6 months long. It's done entirely virtually over Zoom, text, and phone. It offers as much or as little support as requested, and you can take advantage of every service we offer or pick just the ones you need. And more on that in just a second here. Again, you stay connected to your primary care providers and endos, and we send chart notes to them throughout the program. Our services are free regardless of insurance and immigration status, and re-enrollment is possible 1 year from the original enrollment date. The graphic on the right here shows the available services, and I'll describe them in more detail, going counterclockwise and starting with clinical care. Our program offers clinical care, which is exactly what it sounds like: visits with an endocrinologist or an advanced nurse practitioner. We offer insurance navigation, so consultation with insurance specialists who can help you understand and maximize any insurance coverage you may have, or help you find insurance coverage if needed. They can also help with prior authorizations. We offer diabetes supportive counseling, so that is all about help with the emotional burden of type 1 diabetes. We offer case management, where our case managers can help if you're struggling with food, housing, or employment insecurities. We also offer peer support. So, in addition to the monthly group sessions, you'll have a dedicated T1D support guide to work with who will help you navigate all the other services. Then we have education and nutrition. So, this is visits with registered dietitians and certified diabetes care and education specialists. Then there are 2 additional programs available within the Blue Circle Health program. The first is Prescription Assistance Program for qualified applicants who need help paying for supplies and medications. The qualification for that is an income level at or below 300% of the federal poverty level. Then there's also the Intro to CGM program, which provides 3 months of free education and access to a CGM for those who may not have had reliable access to one before. Excuse me. When it comes to the eligibility requirements, they are as follows: diagnosis of type 1 diabetes. And note, this is not just for the newly diagnosed. We're here for you anywhere along your T1D journey. You do have to be over the age of 18, English and or Spanish speaking. You have to have an ability to connect to and participate in virtual care. So that means access to a smartphone or computer for Zoom video calls. You must have a primary care provider or be willing to be connected to one. No current pregnancy. And then you must reside in one of the states that we're available in. Today, that is Florida, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Ohio, Delaware, Alabama, Mississippi, Missouri, or Iowa. And the list of states is growing. So check, excuse me, check on our website and follow us on social media for the latest, especially for those that might be watching this recording after the fact. Next, I'm going to play a short video from a few of the people who have gone through the program. It's about 90 seconds long. And while that's playing, go ahead and share any questions you might have in the chat. I'm happy to stick around and answer them.
I was looking up and my blood sugars at 400, 600 every day. That to me, waking up dizzy, tired was normal.
My day consisted of working with my cards all day long. I didn't have a life. I didn't know what I was doing wrong. I knew nothing about the pump.
And even with the knowledge I have as a nurse, I still didn't have the knowledge to control my diabetes.
I didn't have the right tools or the right education. Even though I've been diabetic my whole life,
It just became so common to me to keep getting sick all the time. The ambulance people already knew me. I knew the crew that was gonna pick me up. It's scary.
And then Blue Circle showed up.
The confidence I have today. I feel like a new person. I feel happier. I feel safer. I'm just glad I grasped the control in time.
my journey with you guys has been amazing. I feel like I have my life back.
I don't know where I would be right now. And I am so trying not to brag. I'm so grateful for your program. It's amazing. Absolutely.
When you change somebody's life in the way they have changed mine, and after a lot I've been through with diabetes, it's priceless.
All right. So you can find more information at our website, bluecirclehealth.org. If you have any questions there or you'd like to talk with someone a little bit more about the program, everything you need to know to get in touch is there. You can also fill out a simple form on the website, and one of our team members will get back to you to answer any questions that you might have. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining, and keep an eye on bluecirclehealth.org/events for more information about upcoming events. I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.